Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Topics with Tim. I'm your host, Tim Ghiorso. I have a special friend guest with me today, Mr. Guisseppe Ramazzini. He
Hey,
is
everybody.
the youth pastor at Redeemer Covenant, where I am on staff with him. We work with the high school kids and junior high as well.
Yep.
And we are going to play a little game for you guys today called the Bible Hop. We have not played this before. This is completely brand new. It's probably going to be a disaster.
Could
But
go down really badly.
it could really expose a lack of maybe Bible knowledge for myself,
It
or
could, but
maybe
maybe.
I get super lucky and like pull up some chapters that I know, and then I look super like I know what I'm talking about. So essentially, rules to this game is Giuseppe's gonna close his eyes. He's got his Bible in front of him. He's going to kind of flip through. I'm gonna tell him when to stop. He's going to put his finger somewhere on the page. I'm going to tell him when to stop as well. He's going to go ahead and read the first two verses that are there, and then he is going to have to try to give you some context on
What's
what
going
is
on?
going on and what is happening. And if he doesn't know, then maybe we might just do it until he finds something he does know.
Just keep
Well,
flipping
I'll
through the
try to keep
Bible
track of the
until I
time. We'll
find
just do like a
something.
3 minute kind of explanation of what the verse is.
But before that, because Tim, you're going to do the same thing, we should rock, paper, scissors to see who has to go first.
Oh man, I mean, I feel like you should just go first, but
What?
yeah, okay,
This
we
is
can
your
do it.
show.
Ready? Here
Topics
we
with
go.
Tim.
Here we go.
Wait. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot, or rock, paper, scissors?
Just rock paper scissors. I don't know the rock paper scissors. Just rock paper scissors.
All right, ready?
Here we go. Rock paper
Paper, scissors.
scissors. Oh, what? Hold on. Sorry, I was that.
All right, do it
Oh,
again.
okay, here we go.
Ready?
Rock
Rock, paper,
paper
scissors.
scissors. I was oh, you can't really tell, but I'm paper.
Paper. You go first. You're going first, boy.
Okay, I'm ready for this. Got my Bible here. You can't really see it because it keeps blocking by my thing here. Okay, so I'm gonna close my eyes here. I'm just gonna flip through. You go ahead and tell me.
Stop.
Okay. I'm just gonna.
Stop.
Oh God.
You probably. Can I guess what book you're in?
Yes. What do you think I'm in?
Let me see the Bible without like. You are in.
Ooh, if you can get this, I'll be very impressed.
You're in. You're in Ruth.
I am not in Ruth.
Dang it.
I'm not in Ruth. I am in the book of Psalms.
Well,
Very early on in the book.
likely it was going to be Psalms because it's like one of the biggest books in the Bible.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like
Maybe you're right before that.
it's like the Settlers of Catan dice roll, where like the 6s and the 8s are most likely to be rolled.
Yeah.
11 Psalms, which now correct me if I'm wrong, were all written by David, or were
Most unknown, but it does seem like a good portion were mostly written by David or followers of David.
Perfect. Okay. Well, so my first verse here, I landed right on Psalms chapter 5, verse 5, and it says, "The arrogant cannot stand in your presence. You hate all who do wrong. You destroy those who tell lies, bloodthirsty and deceitful men. The Lord abhors." Well, this verse is clearly written here. So he's obviously talking sort of to God, I think. He's saying like, hey, God, like you are not one who takes pleasure in evil. With you, wicked cannot dwell. You destroy those who tell lies, bloodthirsty and deceitful men. The Lord abhors. I have to look at the word abhor. I know it means probably dislike or I have to look that word up. I don't know
What
exactly
verse
what that means.
exactly is that in?
So we're looking at Psalms 5, chapter 5, Psalms chapter 5, verse 5 and 6.
And so you destroy those who speak false. The Lord abhors the man of bloodshed and deceit. Yeah.
So obviously he's talking to God here. He's just saying, he's kind of stating what he believes about God. Like, hey, God, I know you. You don't take pleasure in evil. Arrogant cannot stand in your presence. You destroy those who tell lies. And you're not a fan of people who are, deceitful and bloodthirsty. So I think it's David just saying like, yo, God, I know you're not about this. And just kind of stating that. I'm sure, God, of course, already knows that. But, he's like, okay, cool. I already know that about myself. But, thanks, David. So
Sure, yeah. Well,
that's my best commentary there on that one.
no, I think you're on it. Right, and even the psalm starts as a prayer for protection from the wicked, um, and I think you're right. I mean, as this king, as David continues to flee, and what God sees as righteous, what God sees as just, I think you're on it, and um, that David understands following the Lord. Um, is lifting him up, is blessing him as righteous, is knowing God's will and knowing his wants, and us following in the same thing. So I think you're actually right on it. Um, the interesting piece would be if David did write this, right? And he talks about the wicked. If we look at David's life, would he himself, and I'm not saying I would or not, I can't really put people in boxes, but would he himself actually say that he's righteous or wicked, knowing David's story, knowing his background, knowing that he was chosen and anointed to be king, but at the same time, he might have not lived the most just or righteous life, correct? So I wonder what he would put himself in which category. But at the very end, for it is you who blesses the righteous man, O Lord. You surround him with favor as with a shield. Over and over again, it takes away from the wicked, but it's those who are righteous, those who live just. They will be blessed. What does that even mean? I would love to kind of sit, if I could sit with David and be like, hey, what category do you fit in, right? And I think that's a big piece, even in this song, for us to see that maybe it's over and over. It's all about who God is. It's that He is righteous and He is just, and that we're called to follow. So I just thought that'd be interesting.
Okay, yeah. I think I see what you're saying about he did make some big mistakes, like massive mistakes. For those of you who know the story of him and Bathsheba and killing of her husband. I mean, that's like one of the most terrible mistakes you could ever make. But I guess it shows that no one is immune from sin, and no one, even the best of us, are capable of doing awful, evil things, and that's something we need to always be careful of. He's kind of a testament to that. But I would say overall, I think he did live a righteous life.
Yeah.
I think that I try, whenever I see, especially media things about people where, they might, like, for example, like Kobe Bryant, right? They might take one instance in his life and judge his whole life for that and be like, gosh, he did that one thing. That means that he's this person and he'll never change. And that, like, I really believe honestly in taking, like, knowing that no one on this earth is perfect. And if you take someone's whole life, and if we're just judging whether or not they lived a righteous life, we're not judging salvation, anything like that. I think you can't take one or two instances and say this person is this because of two times. You can't do that. Like, you have to take the sum of what they did over their whole lives and judge them based on that, and say, yeah, and they made some massive mistakes, but look at, maybe they helped so many more people.
Yeah. But
even someone who didn't make huge mistakes. Maybe someone didn't make a huge mistakes, but they didn't really do that much to help people. And so, like, I'd take the guy who made the massive mistakes, but still, like, drove him to be better and want to redeem himself and want to do, good things, than the guy who maybe didn't make many mistakes, but didn't put himself out there to make mistakes, to
yeah, no, I think that is good. But I would even take it further of maybe saying, that honestly, maybe I can't judge any one of them, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't truly judge anyone. I'm just saying, like, if I'm like a person in the media and I'm writing an article about Kobe Bryant, I could say, well, he had that whole, accusation where maybe he committed rape, and I could say that, oh, he's a rapist. And I even had people, after he died, I had some coworkers be like, oh, I'm glad he died. He's a rapist. And I'm like, whoa, we're talking about like one instance 20 years ago in this guy's life. Like, and I'm not even a big Kobe Bryant fan, so the fact that I'm defending him right now is like
Even for the
crazy. But like, we can't judge Kobe Bryant based off of like one mistake he might have made or did make or whatever you want to believe. Like look over his whole life. Like because if we're judged by one thing, we're all screwed. We're all
Yeah,
completely screwed,
right, definitely.
you know,
And
because
I
we've all
think,
made mistakes.
yeah, agreed. And that we have to understand, well, that I don't know. I think sometimes we take light of like of people, right? Of human beings, of what we're created to be, of how we're created to be, no matter um, who it is. At some point, as humans, created in God's image, right? No matter um, there's wickedness, there's evil, and there's corruption in this world, 100%. But if we believe this gospel, if we believe the kingdom, humanity, we're created in his image to love one another. So it is hard and it is difficult to even have that or have a coworker to, not just about Kobe, but about anybody, of saying that phrase, well, I'm glad he's gone, or I'm glad they're gone,
Yeah.
I'm glad they're dead. It's like, that idea of what the importance of humanity, or not just the importance of humanity, not the importance of humanity, but our role as the images of God, our role of stewards and rulers and kings, co-rulers with God. I think that's maybe even diminished throughout our intentions or our ideas of what people are. Um, but that's just maybe my opinion.
I feel it. Yeah. I think that if you take the Kobe thing, I kind of want to relate it back to the David thing. So we could obviously take David and we could say, man, this guy was an adulterer. This guy basically murdered someone. I mean, let's be honest. Gosh, I'm so glad that he's like gone. He was a murderer. He was an adulterer, right? We could take that approach of taking this one thing he did and judging his whole life and saying that he was just this is the person he was because of this one thing. And I'm like, whoa, take a step back here. Like you've screwed up. Like, you know, if you're the first person to throw, you know, it's like that. I love that verse where that story where the lady who committed adultery and he's like, hey, if who's without sin, you can throw the first stone. That's cool if you're without sin. Oh, that's right. Oh, none of you are. Okay, cool. So like, yeah.
One's
So what
throwing
do
any stones.
you can't judge then. So I'm not gonna say, wow, you know, David, what an adulterer, what a murderer. I'm gonna say, whoa, David, look at like the 99% of his life that he was like die hard for the Lord and doing everything he could, and the 1% that he screwed up on, you know, which was massive, but it's still, you know, 99% of his life he served the Lord with honor
Right.
and with respect, and as someone to be looked up to and someone to take. I mean, we still look at his what he wrote and still take that to heart. So that just shows you that we still respect who he
Yeah.
was and
Oh,
the man of God
100%.
that he was. And
Yeah. And even
you know,
even in the sense of, who knows, honestly, there um well, no, I won't say it's a different, no, I won't say it. But we look at David and we look at every character. We look at from the very beginning, Adam, and then we continue going down the lineage of Abraham and Moses and all of these different characters. And the whole point of these Old Testament characters is that we see them and we were like, oh, maybe this is finally the new human, the human one that's going to come and bring forth God's
mm,
kingdom.
mm,
But some piece in them is broken. And we see that in Adam. We see that in Abraham. We see that in Moses. We see that in Samuel. We see that in Solomon. We see that in every single person in the Old Testament. You're like, oh, this might be the dude. This anointed David, this small David, he might be the guy. Kills Goliath. You're like, shoot, it's going well. And then it's going well. He's developing this kingdom. And then stuff happens, right? And it just whirlwinds down over and over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where all of Israel is exiled, to the point they're like, what did we do? And God's like, what didn't you do, boy? You did everything. You did everything I didn't want you. And I think you're right. Like, how much can we speak into, or and Paul talks about this, right? How much can we actually judge somebody else's life? Jesus talks about this in the actions. It's not even just about actions, but about if you've done it, committed it in your heart, you have committed it, right? Jesus talks about that with murder and adultery and all of these different things. Um, so over and over again, even David in his peak, man, we see, right, a man after God's own heart. In Moses' peak, he is a resemblance of who God is, his face shining like God's glory, right? We see Abraham and David, and we see all of these glimpses, but at the same time, this glimpse is only that. It's not the full light. It's not the full person. David is a small glimpse. Moses is a glimpse until we finally get to that true human, the one who's actually finally come. And I think David uses this piece, a really good lament and a really good prayer for safety and provision.
Mm.
Yeah,
we needed that perfect one to finally come and set things straight.
Yeah.
All right, you ready for your Bible hop? That led us on a pretty good track there.
I thought it was a cool tangent.
I'm pretty happy where that went. I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and close those eyes. Stop. Stop. I'm not even gonna try to guess what book it's in. I'm not even gonna try that.
Mine's a study Bible too, so it's kind of like.
Oh, so it could even be more sort of Slippy and hey Emmy, what's up? Just kidding. Good to see you, Emmy.
So I'm in Matthew 5, verse 17. Oh, this is actually super cool. Okay.
Lucky.
Yeah, right. The new covenant's awesome. Okay, 17. Do not think that I came to abolish the law of the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or stroke shall pass from the law until all is accomplished. For whoever then annuls one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever keeps and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Verses Matthew 5, 17 through 19.
Oh, wow. Okay. That was a good chunk of stuff right there.
This is like main Jesus right in the Sermon on the Mount. This is even part of the Beatitudes, right? This is great.
So tell me, what does that first verse mean? It says, do not think that I have come to abolish the law of the prophets or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. Yeah. I read that and I go, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
So, right. Jesus, these last 5 chapters of Matthew, Jesus, he's on the Sermon on the Mount. He gets a whole bunch of people and he starts doing teachings. Rarely does he ever do this. He usually talks in parables, maybe to a smaller crowd, but this is like, he's going to go and he's just going to, let's talk about the main topics with Tim, topics with Jesus. He's like, I'm going to go sit on this sermon and I'm going to talk on this mount and I'm going to talk. And one of the things is that a lot of the Pharisees, which were the Bible scholars or the upholders of the law, they were pretty upset with Jesus. They were like, dude, everything you do is against what the law says. And the law is the Old Testament. The first 5 books of the Old Testament. It's called the Torah, or it's called the law. So those first 5 books go through, I think it's 316 different laws. It's either 316 or 613, but I think it's 316. There's 316 separate laws throughout them. And as an Israelite and a follower of Yahweh, you were called to follow them, and there's different rules and there's different guidelines. The problem is, do you think, Tim, that you could follow 316 laws every single day for the rest of your life? Yes. 100%.
100% easily.
I don't even, one, you have to remember all of them. 2, even if you messed up, you would have to know the stipulations. There's tons of stuff going on. So you get the Old Testament. Does anybody fulfill the 316 laws? No. Everybody fails. No. Everybody loses. Somebody misses the mark. Somebody sins, right? To sin is to miss the mark. And if we're made to be human, which to be human is to be made in God's image, and when we miss the mark, we sin, we fall under chaos. We fall under destruction. We start taking advantage for ourselves, and we break these rules. We break this law. The law in the Old Testament, for us now, I think we use it really well. Of like, we see it and man, no one can fulfill it. No one can do it. You get the whole Old Testament. You're like, you end the Old Testament. You're like, dude, no one's gonna actually be this new human. No one can do it until Jesus. Now, the Pharisees are super upset at him because it seems like he's breaking laws, right? He does work on the Sabbath by healing somebody. Him and his servants pick, or not his disciples pick grain on the Sabbath. He's eating and spending time with adulterers and tax collectors and all these things. And Jesus, right here, do not think that I came to abolish the law. I did not come to abolish it, but to fulfill it. And he then goes on to talk about murder, adultery, divorce, oaths, retaliation, love, charitable deeds, prayer, fasting, wealth. He goes on for a long time teaching, but he starts this way because the law in the Old Testament almost lays a foundation, and Jesus doesn't stop at those 316 laws. I'm almost positive it's 316. He doesn't stop at those. He actually goes even deeper. He talks about them almost as if they're surface laws, where he goes into the meaning, right? The next section in verse 21, he talks about murder, right? You have heard the ancients were told, you shall not commit murder, and whoever commits murder shall be liable to the court. This is verse 21. And 22, it says, but I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty before the court, and whoever says to his brother, you good for nothing, shall be guilty before the Supreme Court. And whoever says you fool shall be guilty enough to go into the fiery hell. So he goes even deeper. It's not about just murder anymore, right? Jesus is like, he's going even further and further. It's a heart issue. It's not just an action issue. It's a heart issue. It's something deep rooted inside of all of us that's not from ourselves, but it's this chaos and it's this evil and destruction that Satan has used to continue moving. So Jesus goes to even a further extent. There's 316 laws, but for Jesus, there are millions of laws, right? There are laws that it's not just about my action. It's not just if I steal or murder. It's if I think about, how do I love my neighbor? How do I actually care for that person? How do I love the person that actually hates me? How do I care for that one that wants to murder, that wants to kill me? He goes even to a deeper extent of these laws that no one had ever even thought of, that no one ever even were like, they didn't even know they should follow these. But Jesus sets this example. So when it says, do not think that I came to abolish the law, remember, the Pharisees are already upset of everything he does. But if you actually read all of those things, right, they're called to not work on the Sabbath. But Jesus tells them, is it better to do good or evil on the Sabbath? And the Pharisees don't answer. What Jesus does is he heals a man with a shriveled arm on the Sabbath. And he asks them, is it better to do good or evil if I let this man leave? Is it better? Isn't that just chaos? Isn't that broken? If I can heal him, why can't I heal him now? And so he does. The craziest part then is the Pharisees plan right after, on the Sabbath, they plan to murder Jesus. They don't even answer the question, but in their hearts, they answer that it is better to do evil than to do good on the Sabbath. Jesus takes those 316 laws and in some sense categorizes them in big buckets. And they continue to go deeper and deeper, that it's not just a surface issue.
Right, it's the heart issue, like you said.
It's the heart issue. It's the heart issue. Those 10 commandments that we have and we recite and we know as Christians, those 10 commandments, I think they're written specific. There's not only 10 commandments, there's tons of different commandments, but they use those specific 10 because it's the first 5. It's this relationship from us to God. And then the next 5 is this relationship between us and the rest of humanity. It's almost that those 10 are just big umbrellas for us to continue living and to continue following the kingdom of God and being these co-rulers, these priests, to subdue with love, to create and rule with love and as servants. And we see that servant heart, and we see Jesus' servant heart over and over and over again. That it's not just about actions, but it's about the heart. And James talks about it. Paul talks about it. It is even going to the Exodus with Moses talking to the Pharaoh, that he hardened his heart from the very beginning. It's been a heart issue. And the heart encompasses our whole entire being of who we are.
Again.
Okay, cool.
All right, guys, we're gonna let you go. This has been our podcast. It's been our Bible hop. We will continue to kind of fine tune this process of our Bible hop to make it the best for you guys. But hopefully you enjoyed what you heard, and we look forward to hearing from you guys soon.